Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's dead to me if she mentors my bully? Original post. So my 16 male mom 40s is a teacher at my school. Our school has a special elective you can take, which is being a teacher's aide during your elective period. It's mostly stuff like grading papers for them, making copies, mentoring, etc. It's pretty much always just a teacher's favorite student at a time. I found out at the beginning of the semester that my mom chose Dave, 17 male, to be her teacher's assistant. Dave has made my life a living nightmare since middle school. He has bullied me mercilessly both physically and emotionally since 6th grade. I don't want to get into everything he's done to me, but everyone is fully aware of it, including the school and my parents. There have been countless meetings with school administration and suspensions on his end, but it never stopped him. Since we've been in high school, I haven't had to see him as much, which is a relief, but the times that I do are always terrible. When I found out that he was her new teacher's assistant, I was obviously very hurt and confused. I asked her, why would you want to spend extra time with someone who made my life so terrible? She said that she had him in one of her classes, and that he really isn't such a bad kid, but he has a really terrible home life that she can't tell me about that makes him act out. For the record, my mom has always had a soft spot for kids who come from bad homes. I reminded her of all the things he had done to me, and she said that she understands, but he really needs help right now. I told her I get that, but why does it have to be you? We have a huge school full of teachers and staff who can mentor him. Why does it have to be you? She told me to stop being selfish, and some kids have it harder than I can imagine, and she's just trying to help. I was honest with her and told her that if she continued to have him as her aide, she was dead to me. She was choosing him over me, and she would no longer be my mother. I would no longer talk to her, and the minute I turned 18, I was moving out, and she would never hear from me again. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic, but after a couple of days of ignoring her, I was grounded. It didn't change my mind, and my dad then tried to force me to talk to her. I still refused. So they pretty much took everything away from me one by one for the past few weeks. I no longer have my car, computer, guitar, and most recently my art supplies. And I have to come home from school and go straight to my room, and I'm not allowed out except dinner until I start talking to her again. They don't realize that this is just strengthening my resolve. I'm going to sit in this empty room every day silently until I'm 18, and they'll never see me again. My mom keeps coming in crying and begging me to talk to her, which makes me feel kind of bad, but she still won't remove Dave as her aide. Am I taking this too far? I just feel so betrayed. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I'm sure Dave has a rough life, but it doesn't excuse his cruelty towards you. I would be extremely hurt if my mom sided with my bully. Your mom should ask one of her colleagues to take him on as an aide, and then tell Dave that given his prior history with you, it is no longer appropriate for him to be her aide. Unfortunately, she's obviously not going to do that, since she herself has resorted to bullying her own child for not just getting over it. The fact that they are punishing OP over this is wildly devastating. An ongoing conversation would have been one thing, but to see your child so upset and hurt and punish them for it, mom is freaking depraved. Yes, OP, tell your mother you now understand why she chose to mentor Dave. She's just as much a bully as he is, so it's no wonder they get along so freaking well. Not the a-hole. If my mother would have done that to me or one of my brothers, we would have treated her like a traitor. She puts her savior complex, or whatever this is, over your mental health. She is in addition to that disloyal to your family. Just ignore her and organize your life. Do good in school and leave her behind when you are old enough and independent. I cannot even compute how people do this to their own blood, but here we are. I wish you the best. I couldn't figure out what was bugging me about this. It's the mom's savior complex. You got it down perfectly. She wants to be the teacher who reformed her son's bully at the expense of her relationship with her son. Well, when it's finally shown she's a bad parent and he bails at 18, she'll get her recognition. Charity is great when you make others suffer for it and you get all the credit. There's a saying, it is easy to be generous with other people's money. Now for the update. A lot has actually happened since last week, and while nothing is really fixed, I think things are going in the right direction. On Friday, I got called out of class to the guidance counselor. When I got there, my mom and the assistant principal were there as well. The counselor asked me to sit down and said that me changing tracks from college to trade, like I mentioned in my last post, was a big decision. And she wanted to sit down with my mom and me to figure out if this really was the best for my future. She first asked me if I would fully explain why I wanted to switch. I explained the whole situation from my perspective and about how I was being punished. I said that if this is how I was going to be treated from now on, I wanted to become independent as soon as possible, and going to college would have me relying on my parents for longer than I would like. She then asked my mom if she had anything she would like to add. My mom tried to downplay the whole situation at first and make it look like I was just being stubborn and disrespectful. But as the counselor asked her more questions, it became pretty clear that my side was truth. After this, the assistant principal stepped in and said that a teacher's aide was not worth all of this turmoil and that Dave would be switched with another teacher. The counselor then asked me if this would help me to start working things out with my mom. I said not really, because it wasn't even her choice, and she hasn't even admitted she's done anything wrong. She then asked my mom if she was willing to apologize for anything that had happened. My mom gave a half-hearted apology, where she said things had gone overboard and she never meant to hurt me so much. The counselor asked if I would like to apologize for anything as well, and I said not really, but nobody pressed me on it. The counselor then said about my transfer. It was too late for the semester. What she suggested is that my mom and I, and possibly my dad, should go to a family counselor for the rest of the semester. I would stay in my current classes, my parents would give me all of my stuff back, and we could see if we can come to some kind of peace before next semester. She then asked my mom that if after that I still had not changed my mind, would she accept the class changes. My mom said no at first because she wanted me to go to college, but I told her that she had already failed me as a mother once. Please don't do it again. She got really quiet and said she would agree to it if that was what I really wanted. When I got home, all of my stuff was returned to me. I also started talking to my mom again and just kind of felt like there wasn't a point to ignoring her anymore. I don't treat her like a mother or anything anymore, but I'll answer her if she asks me a question. It just feels like that now that I have a plan, a lot of my anger is gone, and I just see her as a person who happens to live in my house. We haven't scheduled our first counseling session yet, but I don't see it changing much anyway. The damage is done, so I don't see myself changing my mind. That's pretty much it. I probably won't update again unless something crazy happens or something. Thank you to everyone who gave me good advice. Update us when you graduate, or let us know how the trade route goes, or update us once you finish the semester. We're all here cheering you on. Honestly, I'm glad that you got your stuff back. But it's wild to me that it took your assistant principal saying WTF, this isn't worth it, to switch out Dave. I think your plan is good. The fact that your mom hasn't apologized speaks volumes. I won't count that half-baked apology. Yes, I really don't understand his mom. What is her deal? What is her problem? What is her thought process? It's wild to me that after everything, she still can't see she needs to talk to her kid and explain where her head is at without denigrating her own child. I'm just flabbergasted. Her hero complex is higher than being a parent. I suspect you nailed it right. It's mind-boggling she was willing to hurt her own kid this badly. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I'm so sorry your mother isn't capable of seeing how she's hurting you, but at least it's a change for the better. Having grown up around multiple insanely self-centered and narcissistic grown-ups that pop out children without any expectation of raising them, I believe every word. Fun fact. The worst parent I know, a dude who fathered and abandoned at least 15 children across multiple states. Settled down in his 60s and is now raising one son with a random lady. Here's the kicker. By all accounts, he's an amazing dad. People are insane. Next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping back at my mom and saying, why can't you just be like my cousin's mom when she was comparing me to my cousin? I, 16 female, have a cousin, 16 female, who my mom often compares me to. My cousin has really good grades, her lowest being like a 96, while my highest grade is a 73 in PE. Yes, I know it's bad. Me and my mom got into an argument a few days ago about my grades. My grades are a thing we argue about a lot. My mom had checked my grades while I was out at work, and they were 24, 17, 73, 0, 36, non-graded class, 58, and 42. I know they're horrible, but I can't help it. The reason my grades are so low is because I never have the energy or time to do assignments. I wake up, go to school, after school go to work until 11 p.m. on school nights and 1 or 2 a.m. on weekends. Then I go home, clean, and if I have an appetite, then make food and then go to sleep and the cycle repeats. I'm honestly beyond exhausted when I get home. Oftentimes I can't sleep, and I don't even have the energy to change clothes or shower. It's gross, I know. No need to lecture me about it. During our argument, my mom said, "Why can't you be more like your cousin?" It's something she said before, but I was already in a really bad mood and snapped back at her saying, "Why can't you be like cousin's mom?" She looked at me like she saw a ghost, and I started apologizing profusely. She slapped me and told me to go to my room, so I did. That night, I tried to go to talk to her, but she just ignored me. I know what I said was wrong, but I can't help but feel she deserved it. For context, my cousin and her family are pretty wealthy. Her mom is a doctor and her dad is a lawyer, so I'm sure you can imagine their total income. While me and my mom barely survive on our combined income. I have to give her 95% of my paycheck, including all tips, so I don't have much. I'm a waitress, and what I do get goes into food. I often go days without food while my cousin eats out almost every day. They'll invite me, but I can never go due to work or my mom not allowing me. My cousin and her family also go on vacation 3 to 5 times a year, which I'm invited to but can't ever go to. I know my mom tries her best to provide for me and her, as my bio dad bailed out when my mom got pregnant with me, but I often feel myself resent her because I see her going out on dates in luxury restaurants which are all paid for, while I'm stuck at work, starving. While on a date, she always orders more than she can eat and take the rest home for herself. I'm not allowed to have any of it or I'll get in trouble. She'll also often bring guys over, and I'll have to come home after a long day to sounds of my mom having fun in the bedroom. I love my mom so much, but it's been a few days since we talked, and I feel like such a bad daughter. I'd love advice on how to fix things or what to do about the situation. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I don't get the idea you have that your mother is some kind of a saint. She's busy getting laid while you're working your fingers to the bone paying her rent, and she doesn't even take care of you. Your mother is a piece of turd. Agree, she's a POS. She can't even bother to share the nice food with her hardworking daughter. Sounds like mom is a hoe. I wouldn't be surprised if she isolated a dad away from Opie. Sweetie, there is nothing you need to apologize for. You can let her know this is how you feel every time she says it to you. Your mom should be caring for you and not tearing you down. The fact that she will eat good while you go without is beyond me. Do you have a trusted adult you could talk to? Are you able to get your own account? As a mother, I will say what your mom should say. I am proud of you. Thank you for doing your best while helping your household. The fact that you work and go to school is amazing. Don't ever quit. Please don't think that this is all life has to offer you. I see so much strength and potential in you. You have a fighter spirit. What are your plans for after high school? Thank you. And I have my cousin's parents I can talk to, but it's always with my mom's supervision, and there are some things she forbids me from talking about, which I have not included in this post. About after high school, I don't really have any plans as I know my grades are really bad, so it's likely I won't get into a college or something. Last story. Am I the a-hole for demanding my dad's wife cut her only family out of her life over a prank? My dad married Bridget 10 years ago. My brother and I were a-hole kids who did not like her, so we put purple dye in her specialty purple shampoo for blondes. It didn't even work as well as we thought, because we didn't realize dye needed to soak in. So she was left with a few purple streaks she couldn't get out. Now, I'm not saying it was okay, but Bridget lost her mind. She was hysterical and screaming at my dad she was going to hurt us, saying she would never be in the house with us again. At one point, she began scratching herself because she was so distraught. Bridget ran off and my dad lost his crap on us. He said we ruined his life, and she was the only thing that mattered to him. Bridget refused to return to the house if we were there, so he banned us from the house. Our mom had primary custody anyway. He kept saying he would never forgive us. When I graduated high school, he refused to help me with college. I ended up working multiple jobs to get by, and my brother simply never met. I always thought this would blow over as I thought she was his midlife crisis. As before meeting Bridget, he was the definition of a stoic hard-ass. Nope, he was acting like some obsessed teen boy. Well, we recently reconnected and they're still together. My wife wanted me to play nice with him for financial reasons and for our daughter's future. She even wanted Bridget to help her get a job. My dad is willing to help us out but shows no remorse and says we need to understand she is his life. Well, they recently celebrated their 10th anniversary, and Bridget's brother-in-law decided to reminisce and put some purple stuff in her hair, which is washable, but she had a hell of a time getting it out of her very blonde hair. Don't get me wrong, he got smacked for that. But 1, there was no hysteria. 2, my dad was laughing at her and made her pose for a picture. 3, there was 0 ultimatum. Apparently, he gets a pass because he's a huge prankster. Also, he got her way worse than I did. When I found out about this, I was irate. So it is okay for a grown man to do, but not a dumb kid? I called him up and said that Bridget needed to cut them out of her life if my dad wanted any relationship with me. My dad said I was being ridiculous, as they were her only family and only parent figures. I reminded him I was his freaking kid. He claimed she was much more anxious and insecure when I did it, and claimed that it was different because he did it with love, and she was scared of what my brother and I would escalate to. I told him I hope the next prank is near and they can both buzz off, and unless she cuts out her brother-in-law and sister, no more contact from us. My dad is backing Bridget 100%. Info: how many other pranks were prior to the purple hair dye? That wasn't a prank, they were intentionally malicious. They hated her and wanted to punish her. Sounds like OP hasn't changed much. Yeah, it was a malicious attack. It's different too, coming from someone who hates you and wants to hurt you. So you were 17 when you did your prank to a woman you admit you didn't and still don't like. Of course she had a bad reaction, and her husband backed her up. Do I think it was too far to ban you guys permanently? Yep. But you did have your mom to stay at, who had primary custody. This getting back in touch with dad is financially motivated, by your own words. What her prankster sibling did, while similar, had nothing to do with you. They have an entirely different relationships than you did, as your dad's kids who never liked his wife. Whatever trust was building, you destroyed with that prank. Of course you're the a-hole. You also seem to not realize you have no leverage when it comes to your dad. You only came back around for financial reasons, and for this pawns you apparently can't even support yourself. So how is you threatening to cut contact from him a threat? You reached out, not him. Idiot. Definition of don't threaten me with a good time. Am I the a-hole for running away and making my parents look like bad people? So about a year back, my family, me 17 female, my brother, mom and dad, got kicked out of our rental home. My parents struggled financially to support all of us and couldn't find an affordable house that suited our needs, so they came up with a genius solution. They basically started renting a 2-bedroom house and told me in no uncertain terms that I was to go find a family member to take me in. They kicked me out and left me on the front yard with basically nothing but a bag of clothes and my cat. They didn't even help me figure out a living situation. I ended up staying with my disabled aunt for a few weeks, but she couldn't financially support us both, so I had to figure something else out. I ended up venting about this online, and an older friend of mine, Ace, 24, privately reached out and offered to let me stay with him. Ace and I had been friends for a little while at this point, and I trusted him, so I said yes. He drove up to my aunt's place and stayed with us for a few weeks, and then we packed up my things and headed back to Ace's home. Disclaimer: I know this seems extremely sketchy and in most cases would be, but Ace is chill, and we talk with certain members of my family daily, so he's up to date on literally every bit of drama that goes on in our lives, so no one's really concerned about Ace doing anything. We only live about an hour-ish from my aunt. I'm safe. Please don't call Ace weird or sketchy or anything. He isn't. Anyway, recently one of my cousins got married, and I got invited. I wanted to go, so Ace drove me home and I went to the wedding with a friend. This was the first time since they kicked me out that my parents saw me and they freaked out. My mom grabbed me and started screaming and crying about how worried she was about me, and my dad started yelling at me demanding where I went. This was in the middle of the reception. I told them that since they kicked me out, I left. A lot of distant family heard this and got pissed off at my parents for kicking a minor out of the house, and others for them ruining cousin's wedding. In the chaos of people freaking out over my parents and trying to calm everyone down so the party could continue, I managed to sneak out and go back to Ace. We went home, and ever since I've been bombarded with calls from my parents, another family telling me to go back and stop hanging out with that pervert. I've been refusing and blocking numbers left and right. Also, my cousin forgave me for what happened at her wedding. She said she enjoyed the drama and having the attention off of her while her husband solely blamed my parents for what happened. I honestly think my parents don't actually care about me. If they did, then they would have contacted my school before now about me, or the cops. Or even my aunt who says that they never ever talked about me when they called her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. By the way, your parents can't actually legally throw you out at 17. You could have gone to the cops. And your parents only looked like bad people here because they are. My mom kicked me out when I was 16. I walked to the police station. I was told, she can't kick you out. And I replied that she just did. It was met with another, she can't. I ended up leaving the station because they weren't going to actually do anything. Cops are useless. Yep, my friend's dad randomly started locking him out at 15. So he practically lived at my house. And you're right, the cops can't monitor that stuff and they won't. Not stay home. You did nothing wrong. And so long as you feel safe with Ace and he is helping you, I don't see a problem there. Your people who gave you life are just mad they are now known for not being parents. Not stay home. You didn't run away. They kicked you out. They made that scene because family was asking about you at the wedding and they didn't know how to answer. So when you showed up, they saw it as the perfect opportunity to turn it around onto you as running away to deflect from them kicking you out. They didn't expect you to tell the truth. Their little made-up story to save face didn't quite work out for them. Oh wow. And I was wondering, why did the parents start making a fuss of they're the guilty ones? How sordid of them. Not stay home. You didn't run away. You were abandoned. You were left to figure it out on your own, and their reaction was solely to deflect blame away from them. Rude and disrespectful not only to you, but to the bride and groom. You have no culpability in this situation. You could have gone to the police or CPS, and they could and should have been arrested. Please don't say you ran away. That makes it sound like you had a choice in this situation. You were abandoned and forced by them to find your own way as a minor. My heart breaks for you. When karma comes for them, please enjoy the show. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother-in-law's wife out of my husband's wake? My brother-in-law, Andres, married to his longtime girlfriend, Bea, last year. The wedding was held 30 minutes from the city by boat. During the reception, my husband, Dante, collapsed. His brain aneurysm ruptured, and he never made it to the hospital. First day of my husband's wake, Andres and Bea came. Andres had been crying. I noticed how he looked like he hasn't had any sleep. Bea gave me her condolences and placed flowers beside my husband's casket. Andres was always there, only leaving to shower and change while Bea would visit every night. On the fourth night, while I was making myself coffee, Bea approached me and started telling me how terrible things had been. Dante dying on the most important day of her life. I told her how devastated I was. We have always been careful since the day we found out about Dante's aneurysm. He quit his job as a physics teacher at our local high school 3 years ago. We visit our GP regularly just to make sure that everything is going well. Bea cut me off and asked me, "So you mean you knew about the aneurysm?" I told her yes, and that he had been taking medication for it. She said Andres never told her about it. She continued saying it was reckless of us to dance and drink when we know about Dante's condition. He only had a glass of champagne. I asked her what she means, and she basically told me that had she known about my husband's illness, she never would have invited us to her wedding. She said we ruined her wedding. That after we left the island, the reception was cut short. Andres was so worried to even focus on his new wife. I told her to leave before I forget that she was ever my friend. She didn't listen and continued telling me how expensive her wedding was, and that by ruining it, I owe her half of the expenses. I shouted at her and told her to get over herself. My in-laws heard us and came to stop everything before it escalated. I told her to leave and never come back unless she apologized. My in-laws, who still didn't understand what's happened, told Andres to take Bea home. Both mother-in-law and father-in-law were upset with me for causing a scene in their son's wake. I didn't tell them what Bea said. They only found out after Andres told them. He and Bea had a fight, and they had moved their honeymoon, which was supposed to be a month after we buried my husband. To make the long story short, Bea didn't apologize. Until now, we still haven't spoken. I don't go to family dinners anymore, but I still have a good relationship with my in-laws. I do believe that I have all the right to be angry at Bea, but I also want to make my in-laws happy. They have been nothing but good to me. And unless Bea and I make up, there will always be tension in our family. So am I the a-hole for the way I reacted? Was kicking her out an overreaction? Not the a-hole. I'm not entirely sure why the in-laws keep inviting her to things after what she said, or why Andres even stayed married to her, but that's for them to worry about. You are under no obligation to go out of your way to socialize with someone who refuses to acknowledge their breathtaking insensitivity and self-centeredness. This, and this. Every word. I am flabbergasted. You went as far as commiserating with her on your own husband's wake. Because, yeah, it does suck to have this happen on one's own wedding. But this was already very, very mature of you. What you got after was just... wow. I especially loved the pettiness of asking for a refund. Yes, like it's okay for Bea to have these thoughts. Emphasis, thoughts. Because grief does weird things to people. And it was her wedding. But you know who you never freaking ever express those thoughts to? The goddamn widow or grieving family. Like, holy crap. Keep it to yourself and or your therapist. And then the part where she asked to be reimbursed. Holy chips, that was so far over the line she's been lost to the sunset. Not today, all OP. Look, it's her wedding year and it was completely inconsiderate of OP to lose her husband during that year. Not today, hole. She basically said your husband died on purpose to ruin her wedding. That is beyond a-hole. It's cruel, insensitive and all that. For me, that would be lifelong no contact. This, my husband's best friend, was meant to be our best man and had been in the hospital for a while. But the morning of our wedding, he passed away. One of the groomsmen told me he'd passed, and I knew I was the only person who could break the news. My husband and I did a first look, and I remember thinking, how am I going to tell him that his best friend is gone? I was in my dress. We both had family from out of state, and the cake was there, the flowers, etc. I looked at the love of my life and told him his best friend was gone. Then I said, if you can't do this today, we won't. We'll figure it all out. I'm not going to stand by and watch you have to put on a brave face for the sake of a party when your heart is broken. My husband and I got married that day, at his insistence, and everyone told me later that his best friend wouldn't have had it any other way. We went to the memorial service on the last day of our honeymoon. If my brother-in-law had passed away at my reception, the absolute last thing on my mind would have been witching about a ruined party to his wife at his funeral. All I'd be able to do was sit next to her and provide my shoulder, and remind her she's loved. Opie's not the a-hole, but dear God, I can't imagine what her in-laws are thinking. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing my twin brother over my wife? I, 27 male, have a twin, Lucas, 27 male. We are very much alike in some things. He loves fitness and so do I. That's why I became a firefighter and is a gym manager. He has a motorcycle, Kawasaki Ninja 300 I'm pretty sure. He was on a closing shift and he got rear-ended by a crappy Ford. He broke his left leg at his collarbone and has a mild concussion. I broke down when I heard this, as he's my best friend. Forward 2 days after the crash, my wife is going to a wedding and I'm her +1. While we were getting ready to leave while she was doing her makeup, my brother texted me from the hospital and for me to please come to the hospital because he really needs comfort and is in pain and stuff. I told my wife about the situation and she yelled at me to not go there, because he's a grown man that can suck the pain. I slammed the front door shut, leaving her with our baby, and went on my motorcycle there. I didn't even think. All I could think about is how much of a witch she was then. I stayed with my brother overnight as I had work the next morning. Now, I have been getting texts from her family and friends saying I was an awful husband for not choosing your wife and choosing your brother. I blocked all of them. And now my wife is expecting me to apologize for something that she started, and making me look after our baby as soon as I get from work. I told her I'm not apologizing until you are. I'm sorry, but he is blood related, my brother, and it hurts me to see him in that state. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Maybe after the divorce, you and your brother can get bunk beds. Fun! You're the a-hole. So you ain't even gonna bring up the fact that she said that he could suck up the pain and that she thought a wedding was more important than supporting a family member in need. It was 2 days after the crash. There was no immediate threat. The twin just wanted comfort, and they had a prior obligation. I'd be mad too. The brother wasn't in any life-threatening scenario where going to a wedding would cause Opie to miss anything. Especially as it sounds like the wedding was local. Not any overnight or anything. So yes, Opie's the a-hole all around. What's the dude going to do for his brother? Hey bro, how you doing? You okay? And magically the brother will get better and go water skiing? You're the a-hole. It sounds like you didn't want to go and this was a perfect excuse. Have you ever heard of this amazing concept called emotional support? Dude just got into a major accident that probably scared the absolute crap out of him, and is now alone at a hospital in pain. Opie shouldn't have left the way he did, although I understand being angry at that rather heartless comment she made. But if my sister was in the same situation, I wouldn't be going to a wedding instead of going to comfort her. I would expect my wife to understand that, and I know for a fact that my fiancé would understand. You don't visit people in the hospital because you can fix it. Also, if he just wanted an excuse not to go, he wouldn't wait until his brother asked for him when he was already about to attend. Or are you suggesting he asked his brother to call him at that moment, like he was a friend getting him out of a bad date? Edit. When I mean taking care of our baby, I mean not doing nothing. We made an agreement before she was born what jobs we would do. Example, she does the feeding and the nappy changing, and I feed her at night and put her to sleep. I'm not a bad father, I'm just a witch sometimes, and I get I overreacted and shouldn't have left. So, yeah. Now for the last story, am I the a-hole for telling my coworker she got what she paid for? So I, 20 female, work with this woman, Julia, 25-ish female, not her real name, and she recently got engaged. A group of us were talking in a break room, and Julia was complaining about how she wanted engagement photos, but professional photographers were too expensive. One of our coworkers then mentioned that I got a really nice camera as a Christmas gift, and that I could probably take pictures for them. Hearing this, I immediately said, yes, but I'm not a professional or anything. I just take pictures of my dog and stuff. Julia told me that a nice camera is a nice camera, and a photographer doesn't matter. She asked if I'll take free pictures for them, and I said I would. I know, I'm dumb, but I wanted to be nice and I felt kinda trapped because she asked in front of everyone. We have the photography session and it went pretty well. The pictures turned out pretty nice, and I spent a lot of time teaching myself how to edit them for her. Yesterday, I brought a few of the edited pictures to work for Julia to take a look. The pictures aren't at a professional level or anything, but I thought they looked pretty nice. Julia didn't agree, I guess, because she said, oh, these are okay, but I guess I was expecting something different. I have a little bit of a big mouth and a short temper, so here's the part where I may have been the a-hole. I said, well, you don't have to be a witch about it. You wanted free pictures and you got what you paid for. Now, I'm refusing to give Julia the rest of the photos, and some of our coworkers are accusing me of overreacting and being too sensitive. Am I overreacting? Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. I'm a professional photographer, and honestly, I hear this all the time. Julia told me that a nice camera is a nice camera and a photographer doesn't matter. It makes me furiously angry every time I hear it. I spent years learning how to be a good photographer, and it has nothing to do with the camera. I can take better engagement pictures with my phone than a non-trained photographer can with an expensive DSLR. Julia's ignorant and selfish and wants professional quality for free. Also, as a professional, I will tell you that the client never gets all the pictures I take. I edit photos and I present the best of the best. So there's no reason you should give her all the pictures. Give her the ones you are proud to share with her and others and be done with it. And word of advice, people who put down a profession and want something for free are always going to be problems. Don't let yourself get sucked into this again. If I don't understand it, it must be easy. Seems to be quite a commonplace line of thought. Or, most of the technical skills required are subtle or hidden, so I can call it easy and demand it free. Not day-home. Julia sounds like she belongs in r/choosing beggars, although I think I'd give Julia the unedited photos, since you weren't charging her in the first place, and let that be your wedding gift. By the way, I work with a guy who started taking free photos for people and got really good at it, so now it's his side hustle. So if you're interested, don't give up. Not day-haul, but you're not doing yourself any favors professionally. It will cause you more workplace drama if you continue to hold on to the photos. You agreed to do the photo shoot and are now withholding the photos. Regardless of the reason, some people will perceive you as unreliable and emotional because of this choice. Your coworker was wrong, but you chose to put yourself in the position of getting involved with her outside of the workplace. It would be best for your reputation to apologize for the way you worded your response. Explain that you were hurt because you tried your best and hand over the photos. Am I the a-hole for exposing my ex to his mother about our kids? I, 45 female, am currently divorced from my ex Thomas, 47 male of 30 years. We ended up seeing a lawyer to help with dividing stuff. Everything was pretty much wrapped up, till he said he no longer wanted any part of our kids' lives, 5 male and 12 female. I didn't argue with him about it, since I already know what it's like having a parent who doesn't want you around, or wants to be in your life. I asked what he wanted me to tell the kids, and he just said, "Whatever you think is best, I don't care. I don't want to parent anymore." Everything was in agreement and signed with no fuss. A few weeks later, I got a call from my ex-mother-in-law asking if we could meet each other. When I came over, she broke down crying and begging to let my ex see his kids again. I was confused about what she meant because not once did he contact me after meeting the lawyer. She went on about how my ex said he really missed them and that I was just a petty witch for taking full custody. Also that he was crying for days about it. I told her my version of events and she called it BS, saying her son wouldn't lie like that, especially not about his kids. Then I decided to call him in front of her. He didn't know she and I were meeting that day. I said, "Hey, 5 male has a soccer game in a few days," which he did, and I was wondering if you wanted to go. I know he'd really love it and be happy to see you. He instantly said, "No, I already said I'm not doing this anymore." I raised my voice a bit saying, "Well, what about holidays and birthdays? Because we never discussed any of it and your family might want to see them." He just said, "My family already thinks the kids aren't mine anyways, so it doesn't matter." I asked, "Well, how do you think this is going to affect Denise, his mom? She's over the moon about them." He just said, "She loves me more than the kids, so I doubt this will be an issue for her." After a bit more talking, we finally hung up. Ex-mother-in-law was straight-faced and nodded at everything that just happened, saying, okay." She asked me to leave and said we would be in touch. Later that day, I got a call from my ex saying how it's my fault he was kicked out of his mom's house and possibly will be taken off her will. Also, that none of his family members will talk to him because of what ex-mother-in-law heard. He threw a lot of insults at me before I hung up, and now him and his mates keep calling and texting me. Even my friend is saying I shouldn't have said anything in the first place, and I ruined his life. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. He had the right to sign off his rights. He did not have the right to paint you in a bad light and make you look to be at fault and evil/manipulative. That's defamation of character. You had the right to set the record straight. His mom had a right to go no contact with her son, a grown man who didn't want contact with his actual young kids. Sounds like he's getting a taste of his own medicine, aka karma. You put it better than I could have, 100%. Not stay home. Your ex-mother-in-law deserved to know what lies her son has been spreading and how little he wants to do with being a parent. Him being mad he was caught is his own fault, not yours. Exactly. Hopefully, it works out to stay in contact with Denise. Yeah, I hope so too. The sudden disappearance of their father from their lives is going to be difficult for the children, no matter how their mother tells them. The 5-year-old may not fully understand yet, but the 12-year-old will. If Grandma Denise is a good influence, which it seems like she is from what we know, I hope Opie can find room in their lives for her. She seems to love the children very much. I'm sure she'd love visitation. It may be beneficial to the children too, so they can see they still have family on that side who love them. They're already going to be dealing with feelings of abandonment. No need to make it worse by making them feel that whole side of the family abandoned them too, instead of just their father. Not stay home. He made a decision for which he knew his family would judge him negatively, so he lied and made you the scapegoat. You didn't go seeking out his family to tell them what he'd done. You were blindsided by the whole thing. No way were you obligated to carry that water for him. Not at all. I can't understand how anyone would ever take his side in this. He abandoned his children, blamed you, and now is angry that his malfeasance and subsequent lies have been found out. If I were you, I'd reach out to ex-mother-in-law and see if she would be interested in seeing the kids and maybe having a relationship with her. Unless there are toxic things about her you haven't included. It seems like she'd love to see them, and I'll bet they miss their grandma as well. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my mother-in-law in the delivery room? I'm 18 and this is my first baby. I'm getting induced on Tuesday. I live with my fiancé, male 21, and his mother, female 37. We live in a converted area behind her house. Was a garage, but was flipped into a studio apartment. My fiancé and I have been together for 2.5 years now, and I have lived here for a little over a year. My mother-in-law is very opinionated, which is why I believe we're having these issues. We're having a little boy and decided to name him Carter. My mother-in-law said it's an ugly name. She regularly refers to him as her baby, which also bothers me. She insisted that she gets a baby monitor and a key to our place, just in case we don't wake up. She's even asked to set up a schedule, basically switching my son off between the three of us so that is comfortable with everybody. She's made comments asking if I'd love him more if he was a girl, or if he came out with a condition would I still love him the same. I told my fiancé about this, but he said that is just his mom and she means no harm by it. She is just inquisitive. She has been a part of every single moment of my pregnancy, which I should be grateful for, but I feel suffocated. It's like she thinks this is her baby too, and she's a third parent. Besides referring to him as hers, she's thrown away clothes I bought because they're ugly. She's made comments about how young I am and how she's worried about my parenting skills. She's insisted that she be made emergency contact and be on all of his paperwork as well, such as medical release, etc. This morning at breakfast, she brought up how excited she is for Tuesday and that she can't wait to see her baby be born. I just had enough. I told her that my son wasn't her baby, that it was my baby, and that I'd really prefer if she stays home while I have the baby because I just wanted that time at the hospital to be me, my fiancé, and my son. She started bawling. I ended up compromising. She can come to the hospital but not to the delivery room. She said that's not fair at all. She should be able to see her grandson be born, that I'm ruining a special moment for her. Why can't she be there if they're allowing 2 people, etc.? I apologized and told her I'm just not comfortable with it. And I never told her she could be in the delivery room anyway. She just assumed. She told me that if I don't want her there, then I can leave. But my fiancé told her to stop and asked me to go back to the house. When he came back, he told me that I should consider letting his mom be in the delivery room with me for support. I told him that I didn't need her support. I needed his. I explained that I just wanted some time for just us because we didn't get that the entire pregnancy. He said that he can't support me like she would because he's not a woman and he hasn't had kids. I told him my decision was final. All he said was she's gonna be really upset and that I should have made it explicitly clear from the jump that she wouldn't be in the delivery room. Not stay home. By my math, you're older than she was when she got pregnant with your boyfriend. Remind her that if she can do it at 16, you can do it at 18. I don't know why I haven't said this to her yet, but thank you for reminding me. There's some cannon fodder for you, OP. All kidding aside, she's being emotionally manipulative. You are 100% right. This is not her baby. You'll have plenty of support from ladies who can provide you with all the support you need during delivery. They're called nurses. They've got more experience here than your mother-in-law can even fathom. You've got this, OP. Good for standing up for yourself. Not today, home. Can you and your fiancé move somewhere else? That woman is way too involved in your lives. I agree with your fiancé that you could have been more upfront, but I'm not convinced his mother would have accepted it earlier on either. It seems like she wants a do-over because she had her own child so young. We've been talking about it. Just don't think we're able to do so now, but we've been looking into cheap apartments. Finding affordable housing is just difficult now. I totally understand that finding housing is hard right now. But if you don't have a come-to-Jesus talk with your partner about his mother and her boundary stomping issues, it's going to get worse. The problem is not your mother-in-law, it's your fiancé. You are having his baby and he is prioritizing his mom right now over you. This is actually shocking. Put a hard stop to this behavior now or it will never end. Don't let these people gaslight you. This is your baby, your delivery, not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for destroying all my ex-girlfriend's data? I had a pretty big breakup a few years ago. We were together for 7 years until she broke up with me in order to sleep with Fat Jesus from the store she worked at. She refused to collect any of her stuff from me. We're talking clothes, books, manga, anime merch still in the box, DVDs, etc. But most importantly, her old laptop. Upon her refusing to collect any of her stuff, I emailed her. Partly so there would be some record of this. Partly because she'd blocked me on most other platforms because me being upset was apparently emotional blackmail. I said that she had until X date to come and collect her stuff, otherwise I would bin/recycle/sell it. I gave her 60 days to come and collect it. She replied telling me to just buzz off and stop trying to find excuses to see her, and that she did not want any of this stuff and that I should do what I want with it. I specifically inquired about the laptop, and she said she didn't care because she had her main computer, and all her files were backed up on a USB stick. I tried explaining before that it isn't backing up if they're the only copies, but she never listened. I contacted her twice from this point, telling her that she had X number of days to collect it. So if she's going to change her mind, then she needs to let me know. As for the laptop, I contacted her after the given date, telling her that I was about to nuke the drives from the laptop and have them recycled. No response. So I did the responsible thing, given that it wasn't my data. I ran DBAN on the drives to completely nuke them and then sent them to drive shredding place. Stripped the laptop down for parts, took what was usable, sold the rest on eBay. Forgot about it until a few weeks back. She messaged me asking if she could have the laptop back, because her USB stick had, surprise surprise, failed, and she'd lost all her photos on there, including the only copies she had of the photos of her mother, who unfortunately passed away a few years back. I told her that, as I said before, the laptop was gone, and I destroyed the hard drives. The data was gone. She absolutely flipped the heck out and told me that I'm a horrible person, and that I knew there were photos of her mother on there. So how/why would I ever do that? She thinks I'm a piece of turd, and was being spiteful, and that there was no reason that I couldn't have kept a copy of her data, as I have a huge storage server to keep it on, and that it would have made basically zero impact to myself. I know she's being unreasonable, but she's right. I have around 96 terabyte of storage on my server. I could have stored her entire laptop's worth of data 100 times over and not even notice. There was no reason for me to not do so other than me not wanting to. I absolutely 100% could have kept the data after destroying the laptop. Am I the a-hole for not holding on to the data at absolutely zero inconvenience to myself, knowing exactly what was on there? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You gave her every possible warning and opportunity to come collect her stuff before you got it out of your life. Her not choosing to take that seriously is on her, as is not taking basic data backup security measures on her own. Frankly, I'm not sure how much you even believe she's genuinely out of luck, versus this being some kind of mind game. Regardless, though, it's not your problem, so take advantage of not having any reason to be in contact anymore and keep moving forward with your life. Oh, sorry, I should clarify. The deadline was a few years ago now. I must have missed that out. I had to cut a lot out to be within AITA's 3,000 character limit. She just got back in contact with me, apparently expecting me to have held onto the data since 2018. I'd honestly forgotten about it, and pretty much her, until she got back in contact. I could have stored her entire laptop's worth of data 100 times over and not even notice. There was no reason for me to not do so other than me not wanting to. That is 100% a valid reason not to keep the data. Keeping it would mean holding on to the relationship and always having her in the back of your mind. Absolutely unhealthy in the context of moving on from a bad breakup. Not today, home. If you nuked them right away, I could see her point. But giving someone 2+ months to collect their stuff and then not doing it simply because she didn't want to means that is her fault. Yeah, plus I feel like not nuking them would have been irresponsible. I certainly wasn't going to keep the physical drive sitting around. I've had a huge clear out over the last few years, throwing out a lot of old crap. My ex's old computer certainly wasn't going to be spared, and just binning it without sanitizing the data in any way would just have been putting her data at risk. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my wife's gender reveal prank and ruining the party? My wife is currently pregnant and we are the proud parents of a 2-year-old girl. To be completely honest, this is an accidental pregnancy. I love being a dad, but our marriage hasn't been good for a while, so we didn't mean to bring another child into it. We had a small gender reveal party at our house. There was a small cannon which was going to shoot out blue or pink powder. When my wife took the thing to aim it, she shot the powder all over me on purpose. I was pissed and just turned to glare at her. She immediately looked uncomfortable and tried to laugh. Everyone seemed put off by me not laughing, and a couple people told me to lighten up. I still didn't laugh and just stood there deadpan. I could see my wife getting more and more uncomfortable. When we were away from the crowd, I asked why the heck would she do that? And she got defensive and said it was a prank and she thought it would be funny. I told her she knows I don't like idiotic pranks, and it wasn't. She demanded to know how I could just stand there like that and humiliate her, and I replied that I really don't care if she was humiliated because she chose to behave like that. She began to cry and said she wants to be in a relationship where they can play pranks, and it wasn't a big deal. I've gotten a lot of crap from a few family members, especially her dad, about how I overreacted and made a party uncomfortable. Edit for everyone asking, we are having a boy. Everyone sucks here for having a gender reveal party. And everyone sucks here for being miserable in their relationship and still bringing an innocent kid into this mess. Troubled relationships and divorces happen. What makes or breaks it is how they proceed to find a healthy balance. The mother might have wanted to keep the kid either way. As long as the parents manage to treat each other with respect, the kids will be fine. Everyone sucks here. Y'all need a therapist or a divorce. Or she needs to respect boundaries? She does, but the way he talks about her oozes with contempt. That's the thing you can't come back from. They need a therapist to get them through this pregnancy. I'm betting divorce anyway. Not stay home. I don't know your wife, but I doubt if the roles were reversed, she would think it was funny. I also don't think your guests would have defended you. 100% guarantee that if he was the one aiming the cannon at her, he would have gotten nothing but crap from other people. I hope he didn't react well at all to this, but the wife gets a pass? Just because she's pregnant? Honestly, her little prank reeks of passive aggression. Again, he should have handled it better, but that was an awful thing for her to do. Everyone sucks here. I wouldn't enjoy that either. If she wants to be with someone who likes that stuff, she shouldn't be with you. Forcing you in front of everyone so you'd have to give her the reaction she wants, or so she thought, is super manipulative. I don't understand people who get off on others' distress or ridiculousness, let alone publicly. But you, sir, sound aggressive and intimidating in manner, like you're trying to shame her out of behavior you don't like. I don't care if you were humiliated because you chose to behave like that. There's no way to talk to anyone, let alone your wife. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean she's inferior because she does. It's just a difference of opinion. Your high-handed, morally superior manner is also evidently achieving nothing but making her dig her heels in. She wants someone who likes stupidity. You want someone who will obey you. Neither of you is happy. Why y'all got married in the first place is beyond me. What a toxic couple. First story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I'm not going to financially support her if she quits her job to pursue an Etsy business?" I've, 27 male, been dating my girlfriend, 25 female, for almost a year now. I'm a remote software engineer at Amazon, and she works at an Amazon warehouse. Before we started officially dating, we discussed our finances and decided that we would keep our finances separate and split everything 50-50. I told her before we started dating that keeping finances separate and equal was important to me, and she agreed to it. However, she's lately been mentioning how she wants to quit her job because it's making her miserable and start focusing on her art more. I told her that was a bad idea and that she should at the very least have a different job lined up before she quits her current one, and that she could start her Etsy business as a side hustle on weekends and weekday evenings and then pursue it full-time if it's profitable. She's been passive-aggressive about it to me lately. She thinks because I make enough money to comfortably support us both, she should be able to pursue what makes her happy. I think my suggestions to her problem were reasonable. I don't think she needs to risk her income and dive headfirst into this art thing till it proves to be somewhat profitable. She doesn't even want to apply to any other jobs because she only wants ones where she can do something artsy. Am I the a-hole for saying I'm not going to financially support her if she decides to go forward with such a risky move? Edit. You really don't need to tell me your opinions about whether you think our 50-50 split is fair or not. We're both adults, and she agreed to it. I'm not making her do anything. I don't love my job either, but being financially responsible is important to me. I understand some people think splitting equitably is more fair, and I disagree with that. But that's okay. People can have different opinions and do what works best for themselves. But that's not what I'm really asking about in this post. Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Not a a-hole. Your suggestion to her is perfect. She's extremely immature and entitled. She can of course pursue what makes her happy, but at the end of the day, there are real bills to be paid, and if she can't do that while doing things that makes her happy, she needs to be an adult and keep a job that pays the bill. Absolutely keep your finance separately and don't give in to her request. Also, you have only been dating for almost a year. Imagine her entitlement if you are actually married. Good God. And if you Google advice about making a side hustle your main income, every site will tell you exactly what Opie told his girlfriend. Start slow, build up your available stock and customer base, and only when it actually takes off should you quit your full-time job. She's setting herself up to fail by going all in without anything set up at all. If I was her boyfriend, of only 1 year, I wouldn't want to completely support another capable, able-bodied adult either. Agreed. And she is making the suggestion because she is hoping to use Opie as her safety net. Not the a-hole. She's a new girlfriend, not a wife/sugar baby. You agreed to terms before you started dating, and now she figures she's riding the gravy train. I'd say this is a red flag, and to be careful about how she responds next. Not the a-hole. This is a girlfriend of only 1 year, not a wife or even a fiancé. There is zero obligation to financially support her, especially when she seems to have no idea how to run her own business and hasn't even tried her hand at it yet. She seems to want to be a sugar baby and is already getting passive-aggressively upset at Opie's refusal to fund her artsy lifestyle plans. Don't do it, Opie. It will just make the breakup extra ugly and guilt-ridden. Update. I'm breaking up with her. Apparently, I'm controlling and bad boyfriend for expecting a grown adult woman to pull her weight in a relationship. My exes were engineers too, and 50-50 worked great for us, and we have the same morals and drive. My current girlfriend is different from what I'm used to, but her creative, spontaneous, carefree side is not cute to me anymore. She's just irresponsible, and I'm tired of being the mature one. I'm done with this. I don't feel like she's an equal partner to me. I'm all for being entrepreneurial. A lot of my colleagues have ventured out on their own and become successful. My girlfriend has no plans and just wants to wing it and let her passion run free. I'm done with her. She is better off without me. Thanks, Reddit. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted when my fiancé dropped our son off at my workplace? I'm male 27, am a nurse. My fiancé and I have a 1-year-old baby boy. Fiancé doesn't work. She decided to leave her previous job and stay at home. We've agreed that since I'm the one working, she's the one handling home chores. Our son's care is shared, meaning there are times when I handle his feeding, /bathing, /cleaning, etc. However, I made it clear that when it's time for work, she should be taking responsibility. So far, everything has been going according to what we agreed upon. But recently, she's been complaining about my shift hours changing, which is something I can't control obviously, because currently the unit lacks nurses, and it's impossible for me to do day-to-day planning because sometimes I'd work 12 hours, sometimes 15. So it's quite unpredictable, but I do my best to spend time at home and give my fiancée time for herself. Her cousin's wedding was 2 days ago. That morning, my fiancé wanted me to skip work and stay home with our son so she'd go to the salon with her sisters. I told her I can't just skip work for the day. I already had a long day shift that started at 7:45 a.m. till 6 p.m. I told her she could either call my mom or just wait for me to come home. She threw a fit and saying her cousin's wedding was important and I was being unsupportive. I left home after that and started my shift at the hospital. At around 1 p.m. when I was in the middle of work, it usually gets busier in the afternoon, I got a few missed calls from my fiancé. Then she sent a text telling me she was at the hospital's parking lot with our son. I went to meet her there. She wanted me to take our son and watch him till she gets back from the salon at 4. I lost it. I told her I can't watch our son when I'm in the middle of my shift, and she kept saying I should just let him stay with me and that it was okay. I absolutely lashed out at her. I called her unreasonable and selfish. She could have let someone watch him, but she said her family was busy. We got into an argument and she left him with me. I had to drive to mom's house and let her have him till I finished my shift. I got home, but I was extremely pissed. My fiancé and her mom said I overreacted and that I was supposed to help since he's my son too. Mother-in-law said I was in the wrong for caring more about work than my own son, but I already told my fiancé I was busy. She wanted me to apologize for yelling and causing a scene, but I refused after this. I want to mention that she's normally fine with my work schedule until recently, and whenever there's an event, we'd both make arrangements and I'd stay with our son while she's gone. This time, I told her I was busy and that I won't be allowing her to distract me from work, but she was being stubborn, thinking I'm prioritizing work and being unsupportive. Those might be her mother's words, but my fiancé takes responsibility here. This misunderstanding, as my fiancé calls it, could have ended with a discussion. But her mother is determined to paint me as the bad parent who isn't pulling weight and taking part in the responsibility in caring for our son. I'm tired of her and how she keeps judging me while ignoring her daughter's behavior. Mother-in-law said I was in the wrong for caring more about work than my own son. But getting her daughter getting her hair done is more important than your son? Not the a-hole. You're right. My mother-in-law is just trying to put the blame on me no matter how hard I try to explain to her that her daughter and I already talked about it, and that my work is important to me. I realized that this is my son too, and that he's my responsibility as well. But my fiancé is acting selfish at this point, and her mom refuses to see it. She put your son at risk and didn't care. You should be the one fuming at both of them. What was your son supposed to do at your work? Wearing a mask being 1-year-old? Shaking my head. Piggybacking onto this comment to ask Opie, why are you so focused on what the mother-in-law says? She can do a running jump. Have this discussion with your fiancé in private. Cut out the mother-in-law. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Your fiancé and her mother sound like idiots. Mother-in-law said I was in the wrong for caring more about work than my own son. Her daughter cared more about a salon appointment than her own son. Do you really want to marry into this? Fiancé also took their 1-year-old to hang out at the hospital in the middle of a pandemic, exposing him to all sorts of diseases because she wanted to get her hair done. I'd be livid. Not the a-hole, and if I were you, I'd reconsider tying yourself to such a selfish, self-centered woman. Just look at your mother-in-law for what she'll be like in 20 to 30 years. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my daughter for speaking ill of the dead? My daughter's 19 female stepmother, 31, died a week ago. She wanted to spend her last days at home, and when we knew the end was near, my daughter and I went into the room where she was laying. My daughter and her stepmom have had a contentious relationship throughout the years. And she had left the house at 18, telling her stepmother how much she hated her because we had asked her to pay for college by herself. However, when her stepmother got sick, there was a brief period where both she and her stepmother seemed pretty open to forgiving each other for whatever they felt that the other had done to offend each other. My wife had also said she hopes my daughter can go to college eventually. My daughter was away working as a waitress in another town, but when the end seemed near, she ended up asking friends to cover her shifts and drove back to our house. Their initial greeting with each other seemed pleasant, but then my wife fell asleep and my daughter went to her room. Then a week ago, doctors said she could go at any time. My daughter and I ended up going to her stepmom's room, and when my daughter went to reach for her stepmother's hand, her stepmother moved her hand away. But then her stepmother said to me, "Where is my daughter? I want to see my daughter." When my daughter tried to say something, my wife shook her head and said, "I don't want you here." My daughter walked out, and I brought my younger daughter, 5, in to see her mother. When I went to see my daughter later, she said she acknowledged that her stepmom was probably in a lot of pain. My wife died the next morning. My entire spirit is broken, and planning her burial the way she would have wanted and being with my 5-year-old has been the only thing that's kept me alive. After the small funeral we had, I let my daughter go over to my late wife's sister's home. The rest of the people from my family gathered to talk, including my older daughter. We were talking about how much my wife had to look forward to and how badly we feel for my daughter. My older daughter suddenly snapped and stood up saying, "Can we just get out what everybody except my dad is feeling?" She was a complete and utterly awful person who has done so much to make each of our lives miserable. Are we going to continue to pretend that she's a saint now that she's gone? I flipped out and told my daughter she could leave my house if she wants to continue speaking ill of the dead, and that I couldn't think of anything lower than speaking about someone who can't defend themselves, so she should settle her anger towards my wife on her own. My daughter ended up packing up her things and saying she was leaving. My relatives all got mad at me and asked if I was making talking about what kind of person my late wife was taboo forever. I told them that I didn't want to hear any of it, especially when we just buried her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. I can't imagine what you must be feeling having lost your wife. However, one of your wife's final acts was to cast your daughter aside. Your daughter seems to think that you enabled or allowed a lot of mistreatment by your former wife. I don't know how true that is, but from what you did tell us of her actions, it doesn't sound good. You sound like the kind of father that squashed down mistreatment of your own child, or put your head in the sand so as to not deal with it, and enable your wife's poor treatment of your daughter. Which is what you're doing once again. In fact, the reason this has likely happened is because you permitted your wife to treat your daughter poorly over the years, which built up a lot of resentment. I understand you're grieving the loss of a wife. Again, I can't even fathom that. But you're going to lose a daughter soon too. It's time to start cutting your losses. Unless you deal with this, her way of settling her anger on her own will highly likely be by either cutting you out of her life or having a very frosty relationship with you for a long time. I'm sorry for your loss. Important edit. Saw OP's comments where he says the reason he's not paying for his daughter's college is so he can pay to send the younger, his wife's, daughter to private kindergarten. Wow. So you'd not support your daughter's college education, something that really matters in life, because your younger real daughter has to go to private kindergarten, which you openly acknowledge was your wife's decision. Sir, it sounds like you and your wife have reaped exactly what you sowed. To be very clear, you and your wife were absolute a-holes. No wonder your daughter said what she did and despised your wretched wife. Also, she will doubtlessly come to despise you as a failure of a father and failure of a man. You say you can't think of anything lower than someone speaking ill of someone who can't defend themselves? I'll help you with that. Something that is lower, and probably the lowest of the low, is selling out your daughter because you didn't have the spine to say no to a young lover. My 5-year-old has been the only thing that's kept me alive. This is the statement that cements my opinion that you're the a-hole. Everyone else can see your wife sucked. She probably emotionally abused your oldest daughter, and you clearly don't care about your oldest because you excluded her in the thing that keeps you alive during this horrible time. Don't speak ill of the dead, it's just a cheap cop-out. Your wife sucked, and so do you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my mother-in-law a witch for saying it was my sister's fault she died in an accident? So, my 16-year-old little sister died in a freak accident 5 months ago. I can't say a lot about the accident since there's gonna be a trial, but I can say that there was another party at fault for her death. I've been dating my current partner for about a year and a half, and in that time, I haven't met their mother for more than 3 times. There are issues between my partner and their mother, and we usually visit on holidays, and that's all. Recently, we visited my mother-in-law, and the conversation quickly went to my sister and me dealing with my grief. I told my mother-in-law and her husband the truth, that I have never been this angry and sad in my life, that I am not coping well. I do see a mental health professional twice a week. I told them the thing that bothers me the most, which is related to my sister's gravesite. The person who caused my sister's death was apparently randomly buried right next to her. I hate that she has to rest next to him. My mother-in-law then told me that it was my sister's fault she got killed, because of reasons related to her death I cannot talk about in detail because of the upcoming trial. I started to cry, told her I needed to step out for a second, and went and sat on the front stairs for a while. I came back, told everyone that I was fine, and changed the subject. Mother-in-law then proceeded to tell me I was being weak, and I shouldn't have minded her saying that about my sister, since it was a fact that it was my sister's fault as well. We left. I told my partner I felt like my mother-in-law kinda ambushed me and I felt bad. My partner understood me completely and told me this was the reason they didn't have a relationship with their mother. Later, I told my best friends about this, and they disagreed with me and my partner. They told me I was just being too serious, taking things out of context, and since me and mother-in-law don't have a proper relationship, I probably just misunderstood her words. I don't think I did. I don't think anyone should watch their words around me, but I also think a person that doesn't know the whole story, even though I did tell my mother-in-law the circumstances of my sister dying, and she knew there is a trial coming, shouldn't say these kind of things, especially to their child's partner, especially in the stage of getting to know someone. So the question is, am I the a-hole for thinking my mother-in-law is being rude and weird about my sister's death? I honestly don't even know anymore. Not the a-hole. Dump your friends. Yeah, what the hell? With friends like those, who needs enemies? Not the a-hole. You don't even need to ask. Seriously, most people would have lost it on your mother-in-law if they were in your position. I honestly expected you to blow up on her, but yeah, your feelings are totally justified. Holy crap. NTA, NTA, NTA. First of all, I am so sorry for your loss, OP. Second, is your mother-in-law a freaking sociopath? I don't think she even makes a-hole territory because that is a whole new level of heartless. Even if the accident was 100% your sister's fault, you would still feel indescribable pain. We are human. There's no logic or fact when it comes to our emotions. There is no math for grief. We hurt when we lose who we love. Nitpicking over liability and blame is the job of insurance companies and attorneys. Her calling you weak for a very justified human reaction disrespects both your grief and your sister's memory. I'm so sorry she said that to you, and I would suggest not speaking to her until she sincerely apologizes. You need your space now. Best of luck. My thoughts are with you and your family. P.S. To hell with your friends. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.